Okay. So untuk yang first, saya nak tunjuk last time ada yang bagi tahu ataupun ada yang sebahagian daripada kamu ada data yang kurang daripada contoh kurang daripada 100, ada yang kurang daripada 500, bergantung kepada data yang kamu ada. Jadi kalau kita tengok, saya nak share satu jenis data yang saya nak tunjuk lah. Okay, macam mana kalau kita ada data kurang, sebab kita punya assignment, kalau kita tengok, okay, rubrik. Okay, for your assignment, you know that, okay, for those who have already come and see me, I have explained that, okay, you can look at the rubric here, how we do evaluate our student on whom should deserve the exemplary rating, good rating, average rating, and below average rating. Okay, and the list is incomplete, unacceptable. So these are all the criteria of your assignment that you have to demonstrate. In order for you to get the exemplary or excellent, you have to have this criteria. Or if you do it last minute and you don't even think about the things that you wrote down for your report, you might fall in this category, incomplete or unacceptable. So means that you have poor or incomplete work, demonstrate little comprehension of the criteria stated. Which criteria? All are listed. Okay, if you look here, all are here at the right hand side here. You have the background, 80 to 120 words. So you have 4 things to be described. Okay, for example, a brief introduction to the problem. You may have to introduce using 1 sentence if it is good enough, or you can have 2 sentences if you want to explain about the brief introduction to the problem. How does the data set relate to the current issue or challenges faced in the field or industry or community, which based on your data set. If your data set is based on the health data set, so you can talk about the community. If your data set is about product of an industry, then you're talking about an industry. So that's how you choose which one will be your interest of your study. Okay, what your statistical data analysis aim to accomplish means that at the beginning you can identify or you can imagine what are the things that you want to solve or to achieve at the end of your analysis. So that would be the third part. And finally, explain why the analysis is relevant, blah blah blah. So you have to explain. So if you have all these 4, means that we are going to give you marks based on this. Okay, so I able to identify the problem that can be solved and state the objective of the study. So including the objective, which will be this one, 4. Okay, so we are going to give you marks, and these 2 will give you 10 marks. Kat sini hujung ni merujuk kepada jumlah markah secara keseluruhan. If you got the exemplary, then you deserve for 5 mark. If you got, let's say your explanation is not really good, maybe you got the average, then you got 3 out of 5. The same goes to the objective. If your objective is not clear, then maybe 2 out of 5 or 3 out of 5. So in total, you got 7 or 8 out of 10. Okay, so that's how we decide on the marks that you deserve to get. So the rest of the criteria, you can look on your own. Okay, so all the things that we are considering for giving you marks are included in this particular rubric. Okay, now the problem is that we know that you have to do the analysis based on the qualitative and the quantitative. For the qualitative, as mentioned earlier, you have to have at least two qualitative variables, and basically who have already shown me, I have agreed, So that will be no problem. Okay. But for the quantitative, the last part, that will be the fourth objective, where you have to make what we call comparison between sample 1 and sample 2. Now, this is the thing that I want you to look at, on how you can generate your data in order to achieve this particular 250 at least. Okay, let's say you have maybe 50 or 100, your original data. Your original data is considered as your first sample, or sample 1. And the one you have that you are going to generate is sample 2. So you have the first, let me write something here. So the first, where's the comment? Okay, so the first here, okay, the first here is your sample 1. And then this is your original. Okay, but for sample 2 is the one that you have to generate. Or if your data set originally is, some of you got 1000 observation in your data set, then your first sample will be the one that you reduce from your original sample. Means that your original sample will be in sample 2, vice versa. So if your data set contains 1000 observation, maybe you can cut down into 500, and that become your sample 2. And your first sample, you have to reduce the number of observation to be at least between 550 to 100. Okay, so do you have any question here, class? So those who got 1000 data set, you don't have to generate your data. It's just that you have to cut some of the observations, so that your new sample will be much lower in terms of the number of observation. That would be this one. Okay, any question here so far? Okay, if you got no question, sorry, I cannot see my Google, my Gmeet, because I only open one window, so that if you have anything, you have to mention to me. If you write down in the chat room, I can't read after I open the Google Meet. Okay, if you don't have any questions, I want to show you how, if you got less observation and you need to generate for your second sample, whereby you have to get at least 250. Yeah. Okay, or if you want to choose 500, then you have to generate to 500. Okay, now let me show you one of my example. Now, some of you still blur on what to do with your data, and you don't know which or how to start off with your data. Now, let's say this is your original data. Your original data is about the cardiovascular, okay? The cardiovascular patient, whereby there are several observation or several variables included in the data set, which include the age of the patient in terms of year, age of your patient in terms of day, the gender, the height of the patient, weight of patient, the BMI, the cholesterol level, and finally is the status of cardiovascular for each individual in the dataset. So if you can see, the keyword is here. We are talking about the cardiovascular patients, and some of them may not have the cardiovascular. For example, this one absent, right? This one present, this one absent. Now, if you are talking about this particular data set, you want to discuss about what? Are you going to discuss about these two group of people who got no cardiovascular and who got the cardiovascular? If let's say you want to focus on the cardiovascular patient only, then you have to screen or you have to filter this data into only those who got cardiovascular. So in my case, if I were to choose this particular data set, I would reduce this data set into those only who have already got the cardiovascular. Means that my selected data set will be like somewhat like this one, because I'm talking about the cardiovascular patients. Okay, if let's say your interest is still wanted to comment on the absent and the present, it's still okay. Okay, based on your preference. Okay, means that if you include the absent and the present cardiovascular in your analysis later on, you are going to tell about those who are absent and those who are present. Okay, now why? Because we choose cardiovascular, because this is the keyword for the whole data set here. The whole data set is based on the cardiovascular level. Means that does someone get the has the cardiovascular or do not has the cardiovascular. Now, which variable that you are going to choose for your assignment? As I mentioned, you have to have two qualitative and one quantitative. So if I were to choose, let's say I choose for the qualitative is the gender and the cholesterol level. Because why? Gender, you got two groups. Cholesterol level, we got three groups. As I mentioned, please find grouping that got more than three or more groups, so that when you do for the second objective, that will be on this one. For the qualitative, choose two qualitative variable and represent the bivariate analysis. Means that you are going to include these two variable into your graph. So you are going to show that those who got normal cholesterol, we are going to see how many of them are male and how many of them are female. Okay, the same goes to above normal as well as the well above normal. So we want to see, are all male or female that has higher cholesterol in the three groups? Which group? Normal cholesterol, above normal cholesterol, and well above normal cholesterol. So we wanted to see that. And for the quantitative, we are going to, if in this case I choose the weight, means that I wanted to investigate whether this particular weight has something to do with the gender and cholesterol with regard to the presence of cardiovascular. Okay, maknanya kalau saya nak kaji tentang weight, buat apa saya nak kaji tentang berat badan pesakit yang ada kardiovaskular punya penyakit? Sebab saya nak tengok kaitan berat badan dengan level kolesterol dan juga gender. Adakah orang yang mempunyai berat badan yang berat selalunya akan ada masalah kolesterol? Dan kalau ada masalah kolesterol, dekat grup mana? Adakah dekat grup normal ataupun grup above normal ataupun grup well above normal? Dan saya nak tengok juga sama ada lelaki ataupun wanita yang paling ramai bagi setiap grouping yang kita ada. Okey, setakat ni ada siapa-siapa nak tanya? Do you have any questions before I show you how to generate? Any question? No, eh? Okay. Now, as I mentioned, how to generate, I've given you this, right? Simulate additional observation to your data set. Since for this particular case, we are going to simulate or add additional observation for quantitative only, not qualitative. So in this case, for your assignment purposes, we are going to simulate on the quantitative variable. So in my case, what is my quantitative variable? Is the weight. Okay, it's all the weight. And if I were to show you the last sheet that I already filter, so this is my first original table. After I filter the variable that will be included in my assignment, all this, then I filter again those four. Add this filter button so that I can see one by one for each group. If I were to show the normal, then I can have all the normal. It seems that the normal cholesterol got the most number of observation compared to above normal. If you can see above normal, only a few. The same goes to well above normal, only a few. But the normal case got so many. But for normal, you got the absent and present cases. So you can see. Of course, in my case, for the absent cardiovascular, I don't want to see, I don't want to investigate about them. I only want to investigate those who got the cardiovascular problem. Okay, so let's say I bring you to the the fourth sheet where I have already filtered and I arrange according to the group. My chosen variable is cholesterol group, and I put them into well above, above normal and normal, and I choose those who got cardiovascular problem only. Yeah. And I wanted to simulate additional data so that my total number of data is 100 for sample 1, and for sample 2, let's say I choose 50 for sample 1 and 250, if I'm not mistaken just now. Yeah, 250 for the second sample. So let's see how we can do that. As I mentioned earlier, we have to find the mean and standard deviation for each of the group so that we are focusing on each group. Okay, so well above normal, find the mean. So get the average. So double click the average and then choose the data and then enter. So you got the average value. Now find the standard deviation. Is the standard deviation right? Find the standard deviation here. Okay, so find the standard deviation equal to STD standard standard STD, if I'm not mistaken, is standard. If it is, you can use the average, the variance. Okay, choose the variance. In this case is your sample, so S.S. Okay, choose again the data set and then click OK. What else? Oh, this is not the covariance, huh? Not the covariance, it's the variance. Now, the keyword is STDEV. So choose the sample because we are using the sample. Okay, then choose and then choose the data and then enter. So you can do the same for the next, that will be average for the second group, and then standard deviation for the second group above normal, and then find the third, that would be for normal, average, let the value, then enter, and then equal to STDEV, What's this? STDV. Okay, and then highlight the value. Now you have got all your data here. Okay, now I wanted to simulate here. Now my interest is I want to have at least 50, right? 50. So I need to add, let's say I put it become 100, for example. Make it easy. Okay. So in this case now, what we do, look at here, the keyword is norm.inverse random. Okay. Let's say I bring this to my Excel so that I can easily see. Okay. Now, let's say I wanted to add the data. So I bring down some of the data that we have got so that I can make sure that my data will be put accordingly. Let's say I just choose until here. Okay. Now I wanted to simulate additional data for this week. Okay. So you type equal to norm dot inverse, find the norm dot inverse, double click, and then you put as random, just type RAND, double click, okay, just put follow exactly, and then choose which one is the mean. G5 is for the mean, so I choose for the first well above normal, this is the mean, and then I choose for the standard deviation, see, for the standard deviation I choose here, and then close, and then enter. Now what happened is that you want to generate for this additional, so what happened, you drag down this, when you got this plus sign, you bring down. Now what happened is that here, what happened is that we don't lock the value because we want this value to be fixed for all this. Means that what happened is that if I show you here, see, the mean location is moved to this particular empty cell. That's why we got what we call wrong value. So what happened is that when you want to start, you have to lock the location of the mean and standard deviation. And this is where you have to put the dollar sign. So you are going to lock the location of the mean and standard deviation. Okay. Once you have that, drag down again. Okay. You have your generated weight for well above. So just copy well above. Okay. And then okay. So now what happened is that when you do some changes, this value also change, right? Let's say if I put, let's say I randomly add the gender. Okay, let's say the female is somewhere over here based on the Control V. See, the value keep changing. Now, in order for you to keep the value so that it won't change every time you make some changes, what you can do is that you highlight and then Control C and then copy, and then when you paste, you have to paste as value. Okay. Now, when you paste your value, let's say I move the original generated that will be using the function, and I choose only the value here. what happens is that when I do some changes, then it will affect the value. Okay, the only thing that affected is the original data that you have. So you can, the most important thing is you can generate your quantitative variable, and the qualitative variable you can just copy for the one that you control, and for the gender you can just randomly put them as male or female. So this is for the purpose of learning only. In actual investigation, this particular part is, this is not the way we do the generated data, because patient data, we usually do not generate new observation based on the random value. So this is for the purpose of the assignment only. So class, do you have any question for the first generated value here? So later you see your weight is all whole number, right? So if you want to put them as a whole number, you can highlight and then double click, format cell number, and then put 0 decimal point. So everything will be according to the original data value. Okay, class, means that here this is the generated using the simulation, the random inverse instruction function. Do you have any questions so far? So you can do for the next group for the above normal. So let's say at the moment we have only until 49. Let's say you want to add more observation for above normal. So let's say you want to stop here, and then let's say I just put everything so that it would be easy for me. Control C. So these are all for above normal. And then let's say in the above normal, I want to put some of the gender. Some of them are male. And some of them, let's say we put them as female. This is for the purpose of assignment only. And then, so just copy and then paste, so that your generated value will not be affected when you have already complete this particular qualitative variable. Now for the generated, as just now, the function is norm inverse. Norm inverse, double click, and then the probability value is using the random. So type RAND. So you got the RAND, double click, and then just put the um, close bracket, and then identify the mean, comma, and then identify the standard deviation, close the bracket, lock the location of the mean so that you don't have any problem with the generated value, and then enter. Then put the cursor into the generated, then scroll down so that you can generate your new observation. And if let's say somehow you got negative value, so make changes to your value, because sometimes the generated value can be negative. So for the weight, it is impossible to be negative, so you have to change. Okay, so in this case, let's say I want the value to be the whole all whole value, so change that into 0 decimal point. Okay, so I think I will just stop here. If you don't want that value to be changed, you can just bring here, see, and then you copy, Control C, put here. Remember, paste the value, okay, not paste the function. If you paste the function, it will keep changing. So paste the value. When you paste the value, change again the format, become whole number without decimal point. So this is your new generated observation. So do again for your normal cholesterol level until you got the